Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media Expert Series. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event on the AI revolution of 2024, and more specifically, how AI transforms security and threat detection. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that are going to help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you. So we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. So not only will we have team members responding to those questions during the live event, we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that come in. That Q&A panel is also the place to just say hello, which a lot of you have been doing already. We'd love to hear where you're logging in from. And it's also the place to let us know if we can help in the unlikely event that you have any technical issues. So a browser refresh will fix most issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, at the end of this webinar event, we'll be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Now, these expert series events are special product neutral looks at pressing technology problems presented by an expert in the field, but the support of our sponsors makes it possible for us to bring you this content. So we want to give a special shout out to our sponsors. So over the next few slides, I'm going to share some messages from those sponsors today, and they'll refer to links that you can find in the handout section of your console at any time during the presentation. As always, the handout section also has a few valuable Actual Tech Media links that you can check out there, including a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of more great upcoming events like this one. So now, before we get into the main presentation, we do have a few messages from our sponsors. And first, a big thank you to the University of San Diego for helping bring this expert series to life. So our conversation today would not be possible without support from key supporters like the University of San Diego's online master's programs in cybersecurity engineering and cybersecurity operations and leadership. And we have a quick video we want to share with you exploring those programs a bit further. So let's check that out now.
In the current digital age, cybersecurity is really important, not only as a standalone field, but really is being embedded into just about all of the professional fields available.
The biggest part about the online program, especially with USD, is the ability to have flexibility for the students. A lot of them work full-time, so you do it at your own pace as long as you're still submitting your assignments on time.
As an online or on-campus students, you actually have access to a delivery system, so you have convenient, secure access to your classes, assignments, courses, discussion board.
You log in as a student, you get your syllabus, you get your assignments.
Your professors act as mentors and advisors. You're really welcome to reach out for a recommendation for a job, for a career advice. So we really have at your disposal a great set of professors that will act as your community and your support system.
All of our faculty are in the workforce. We don't have faculty that are just teaching off of theory. They're actually teaching from being in a cybersecurity realm as well.
Most of our faculty are actually engineers, executives, or even military officers doing cybersecurity for a very long time, and currently at USD, at your service, actually teaching you the latest technologies.
Especially in a cybersecurity environment, things are constantly moving, it's technology, nothing can stay stagnant.
The USD on-campus and online cybersecurity engineer program is designated by the National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense. Therefore, the students actually getting material that has been vetted and then also compliant to what the industry is actually required and what the industry really needs.
The students that we get are amazing because they come from sometimes a cybersecurity background and some of them don't, so you have the opportunity to work on both levels with them.
Whether you are a veteran professional or you're new to cybersecurity thinking about career change, this program is for you.
I love that emphasis on flexibility and access to learning in a way that works for you as a student and as a person, and that the professors are all sort of a part of the workforce. So you know the information you're getting is real world and fresh. So you can see that I have a question up on the screen for all of you. So it's, are you interested in learning more about the cybersecurity programs USD offers? And if yes, which ones? So I can see people are responding already. That's great. Whether you're looking to design advanced security systems or lead the charge against ever-evolving cyber threats, USD's nationally recognized programs equip you with the skills you need to stay ahead in this exciting and innovative field. Their programs are 100% online, so those are tailored for working professionals, and they're designed to help you earn your master's degree while balancing your career. We've got small class sizes and a curriculum developed by top industry experts. You'll gain both technical skills and strategic insights that are immediately applicable to real-world challenges. So that those online master's programs in cybersecurity engineering and cybersecurity operations and leadership you'll join a network of cybersecurity leaders and innovators from around the world, opening doors to new opportunities and to career growth. So I've got some more fun facts for you while you answer the poll. And one thing I should mention, feel free to respond on behalf of someone else that you'd like to pass the information to, someone you think would be a great candidate. So 46%, that's the percentage of cybersecurity professionals contacted weekly by recruiters, regardless of whether they're actively looking for a job. 79%, that's the percentage of people that strongly agree they're happy as a cybersecurity professional, according to surveys conducted by ESG and ISSA. And 20, that's the number of months that it takes to earn your cybersecurity master's degree through the University of San Diego. So the next priority deadline for the spring 2025 term is November 4th. And the final deadline for spring is December 2nd. All right, well, we all know how important it is to engage in lifelong learning, and clearly all of you get that because, hey, that's why you're here with us today. So if you want to learn more about the University of San Diego's online master's programs in cybersecurity engineering and cybersecurity operations and leadership, just head on over to that handouts tab and click on the USD link. You can open those up and spend some more time exploring after we wrap. And again, feel free to share that information with colleagues, friends, and family as well. Okay. Today's event is also sponsored by Okta. As you know, threat actors today aren't breaking in, they are logging in. Security leaders need a unified view of identity to bolster security outcomes for their organization. Okta is going to help you stop threats before they reach your digital front door. So click on that button to find out how, or grab the link from your handout section. This event is also brought to you by SentinelOne and its Purple AI. Purple AI is your AI security analyst that enables autonomous security operations. Just a few stats about Purple, and pull out your phone here if you can grab that QR code. There's another QR code coming up, so it'll be handy. But Purple offers 80% faster threat hunting and investigation as reported by early adopters. Those same early adopters say it delivers a 128% improvement in ease of threat hunting. Finally, some 78% of surveyed early adopters also found the notebooks feature either very or extremely helpful. So you can learn more about Pure AI at the QR code on your screen or in the handout section. And finally, we are supported by Pure Storage. Pure Storage is all about embracing the AI opportunity while reducing the risk of data loss. There's a QR code here that you can scan to learn more about the Pure Storage platform for AI. Some of the things you'll learn about there are how to future-proof AI infrastructure and assess threats rapidly, protect data with industry-first generative AI copilot, leverage AI ops for ransomware detection, recover at scale and minimize downtime, and achieve instant indelible immutability. Sorry, lots of I words there. Great alliteration, but it proved too much for me this early in the day. Achieve instant indelible immutability for backups. Okay, so once again, take advantage of that handout section where you can find all the links that you've just seen. And with that, let's get to today's fantastic session. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today, the Bill Kleyman. Bill's going to tell you a little bit about himself, but I'll just say he is in it when it comes to AI right now, and we're in great hands for this expert series session. He's one of my favorite presenters. I always learn something, and I'm always entertained. I'm sure you will be too. So without further ado, here is Bill.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And hey, everybody, my name is Bill Kleyman, and welcome to this very important actual tech media broadcast and conversation. listen, I usually get a chance to come out and talk for like 10, 15 minutes. And every once in a while, the folks here at Actual Tech are like, Bill, we're going to give you about an hour to talk about something really interesting. And today, security, not just like security or threat detection, specifically artificial intelligence and the transformation that it's experienced. Most of all, how it impacts threat detection and security. Everybody on this call and listening, and I want to welcome you. And thanks for hanging out and spending some time with me. Like I said, I'm Bill Kleyman. I am the CEO and co-founder of Apollo.us. And remarkably, Apollo has a very unique view into the kinds of systems that are being run right now and the security that's being wrapped around it. So we're going to be doing some educating and some real discussions about this. I'm very fortunate. I'm also the AFCOM Data Center World Program Chair, putting on some of these big conference talking about our digital infrastructure space. And I am the contributing editor to Information Week's Dark Reading, Data Center Knowledge, and Data Center Frontier Journal. So I get a chance to work a lot with this stuff, whether it's being from a practitioner perspective or really kind of helping deploy these technologies and solutions together. So all right, everybody. Listen, if you've got your coffee with you, if you've got your some water with you, fantastic. Listen, there's going to be times where I understand. Listen, I'm a millennial. I've got ADHD. Sometimes I'm not always paying attention. So if I have to tell you to get off your Amazon shopping list, that's okay. That usually means I want you to pay attention to a slide, other than just listening to this very soothing, highly energetic voice. So let's dive into this conversation. There's going to be a lot of really important stuff in here. Please understand, a lot of my discussion, while we will touch on, let's call it traditional artificial intelligence, pattern-based recognition, we're going to talk about generative AI. We're going to talk about everything that's happened post-January 2023, and specifically how artificial intelligence right now is transforming security and, of course, threat detection. So we're going to dive right in. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. One more really important point. I love an interactive audience. If you have a question, if you have a comment, concern, anything, I promise I'm going to try and keep an eye on the Q&A windows as I'm talking here. So if I have a chance to answer it live, I will. Otherwise, we're going to save it towards the end. And listen, I always run out of time. And it's not that I don't want to answer every question. We just do. But I will answer those questions offline as long as you keep sending them in. I promise to try and get back to you and keep everyone connected and keep everyone educated. So, all right, that was way too long of an introduction. Let's dive into this. The topic of a conversation is going to be multifaceted today, and it's going to be fast-paced, but there's going to be places where I'll stop, okay? And then we're going to have to pay attention to it because a lot of this is going to be new, right? Especially with the kinds of technologies we're going to talk about. So, security in 2024. A lot has changed. There's no question about it. A lot has changed. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about you and me and, and everyone listening here, how our workforce has changed. And, we're not going to talk about the pandemic, even though that had a massive implication for all of us in how we work, live, eat, play, everything. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some scary stuff here. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. We're going to discuss some of the scarier elements of being in business today, working with technology systems and weaponized AI. We're going to discuss this. We're going to see some of the attacks that I've seen, some of the things that we've mitigated. So please pay attention to that one. We're going to talk about using AI for unparalleled defense and offense. That's actually something we don't really talk about quite a bit. How do we use it to actually, I'm not saying go out there and try and hack someone, but let's say poke the hackers to know where they are. Let's leave it at that. We'll get back to that. We'll talk about security tools and awareness training. And I'm going to stop there because I think that's one of the most important points here. No security tool is going to be good for you unless your people are on board and unless your people are trained. In fact, the best security platforms, technologies, solutions theories, whatever it is, they start with the people. And we're going to go there and we're going to talk about it. Fortunately, we have time for all of this. We're going to leave you for some final thoughts as far as, what's happening in the industry, what we can look forward to. And then we're going to open up for questions and answers, which we're going to have some time at the end. Please don't hesitate. Don't just wait till the end. Pop those in. And hey, one more thing. I'm going to go back one more time. Let's connect. Let's be connected. Let's go ahead and keep this conversation going. I fully expect my phone and my watch to be dinging nonstop, hopefully getting new connections from people as we go along in this conversation. So let's kind of get started. You've got the agenda. Listen, you and I, we grew up with a very, very traditional view and linear view of security, right? And this is just something that was sort of embedded into us, right? You see that little lock in the upper left-hand corner, you're good, right? Everything's great. You know, you're nice and secure. Or you think you have like a 15-character password with 3 exclamation marks at the end and the numbers 1, 2, 3. Hey, I'm good. I'm all set. Yikes. I'm going to be honest with you. That little SSL lock, I mean, 1 in 3 sites will mimic a secure website to get your information out. And if you think that, you know, your password is secure, I'm here to ask you this question. Is it enough? Like, how do you actually know it's enough, right? How do you know if the security architecture that you've defined, or even just your password, let's just forget everything else. Let's focus on your password for a second here and see if that's enough. So this is the first moment. This is your first moment class, right? Get off your Amazon shopping list or your chat GPTs or whatever you're doing. Come take a look at this next slide, because I'm going to tell you how long it would take this dude to brute force your password in 2024. I even listed the kind of hardware that I would use. So if I had access, I'm not even talking about A100s or H100s. If I had access to a couple of RTX 4090s, I bet you I could play some pretty epic games on that. Or I could try and hack into your environment. So take a look at this for a second. So if you use numbers, uppercase and lowercase letters and symbols, and you have 6 letters in there or 6 characters, 12 hours. 12 hours, despite your complexity, whatever you might have, that's how long it's going to take, right? Or lowercase letters, or for example, if it's just lowercase letters and numbers, 8 months or even 4 days for something that's at 7. Now, this is why we like passphrases, something that's longer and something that's able to be a lot more secure for you. So, I mean, take a look at that. With 18 characters, I mean, basically you're typing out a sentence at this point with some numbers, some lowercase letters, and some symbols. You're talking about, wait, what does that say? 19 quintillion years. Holy cow. And the one before that is 276 quadrillion years. That's a very long time. And obviously, we're not going to be using 4090s that far ahead. I'm sure next year there's going to be much better chips, but that still takes a while. So everyone on this call, go ahead and think about your passwords. Are they really that secure? What about your corporate one? What about your corporate policies? And specifically, now, we haven't even started to talk about AI, right? Now, the reality here is, outside of traditional password policies, our workforce has changed, right? So we got this, right? All of you got the point. You have to do security a lot more intelligently, especially when it comes to passwords. But our workforce, you and I, have changed, right? It's funny. I think the one anecdote that I like to talk about is how many people have let their kids go and watch YouTube or, watch Blippi or Paw Patrol or whatever it is. Clearly, I have like a 6-year-old, so I know all these shows. But how many of you actually allowed your 6-year-old or your kid or a family member on your laptop? You'd be surprised how often that happens. And you'd think that in the age of cryptocurrency, I'm sorry, not cryptocurrency, ransomware and losing your data, people would know better, right? You'd hope they'd know better. Well, that's not always the case, right? So we take a look at these trends. These are from a recent report called Hook, Line, and Sinker: Why Phishing Attacks Really Work. 35% of workers who know that they've been hacked won't change their password afterwards. Almost 50 of employees have admitted that they click on links from senders that they don't know who it's from during work hours. 67% of workers are sure that they've received at least one phishing email at work. And the scary one is 40% of those who received it won't tell you about it. They won't even actually share it. So you have to understand that's part of the reason why we're going to talk about the people element of security first, and then we're going to jump into some of these really interesting AI architectures as well. Now, before we go in, it's not just these malicious attackers out there. The systems and technologies that we're going to be talking about today, this is really, really important. What we're going to be discussing is how to protect yourself against this. The weaponized AI, the new kinds of structures out there, and so on. So these are statistics and findings that I'm seeing as an analyst and somebody who works in the security space. So I think this is really important for you as well. All right, this is another one. Come on back from your shopping list. And if you're paying attention already, you get a gold star. So 94% of threats right now come in through your inbox. And right now, what we're seeing these malicious actors do is they leverage artificial intelligence using automated social media reconnaissance to make it look extraordinarily authentic that it's a real person trying to get your information, which is why phishing attacks have become crazy contextualized and truly genuine to the extent where victims are much more easily lured. So the reality of the situation is here, you can have the best technology out there, but if you still have people clicking on links, like you saw those statistics earlier, that you don't know who they're from, none of the systems that you use are actually going to ultimately help you because your people aren't equipped to protect themselves and their information. There's a shared responsibility and security that we have to impact on people to make sure that they understand. And now we have weaponized AI, but that's not where it stops, unfortunately, right? We also have ChatGPT, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about this for very long. I'm just going to keep it very brief. Every single one of you is a user of generative AI. Every one of you, whether you like it or not. We've been trained to interact with data in a very specific way. You type in a question, you get a blue link back. All of that's changed. What's seemingly overnight, all of that's changed. Where right now, if you go on your favorite search engine, Google or Bing, and you ask it a question, the first response is no longer a blue link, is it? It's a generative AI response. And that's how quickly all of this has changed. Now, the only reason I have this up here is that this growth around this technology is faster than we've ever seen before with any platform or any technology. But with this come really serious security implications. And I'm going to share some of those with you because we know that ChatGPT is powerful. We know that it could do really amazing things. So how we apply it, both either intelligently or unfortunately sometimes maliciously, even if it's unintended, is the reality of our world today, right? So chatbots, security, and AI. So there was a recent research that 4.2% of 1.6 million workers at a client company, multiple ones, risked leaking confidential information, client data, source code, or regulated information to the large language model. Now, this isn't just like a couple people. These are tens of thousands of folks who have done this, right? And the challenge here is that it's not malicious, right? They're just trying to use this thing as a tool, as a mechanism to make their job easier. Let me give you some really specific examples. There was one case where an executive cut and pasted their firm's entire 2023 strategy document into ChatGPT and asked it to create a PowerPoint deck. Now, listen, it was a good PowerPoint deck. Unfortunately, he shouldn't have done that. And now here's the crazy part. All of this information that he inputted was now being used to train a large foundational model, and it was available to anybody to reference. In another case, we had a doctor input their patient's name, medical condition, and some medical information and ask ChatGPT to craft a letter to the patient's insurance company. Now, let me be clear. It saved this doctor probably a good hour in having to sit down and write this letter. But like the previous example, this doctor now officially uploaded protected healthcare information and personal healthcare information up into the cloud for a giant large language model to use and to train with. Now, this is a little bit scary, right? Now, this is people doing something by accident. What happens if someone uses ChatGPT or generative AI for, let's say they get access to a code, or let's say they know that your system hasn't been updated in a while, right? Maybe a server or a printer or whatever it is, and they find the runtime code for that, and they say, ChatGPT, find me a vulnerability in this code, in this driver, or in this update, or this version of the software, and then write a code to exploit it. Okay, now this is an actual email server. It's an older email server, right? You can get some access to this. And basically the prompt, describe any vulnerability you may find in the following code, which is in Java. Write a Perl script for them, all of them, all the vulnerabilities. This is real. These are real attacks. This is what someone can effectively do. And it's quite scary because it's very accurate, which is one of the main reasons why you must keep your systems updated, and you need to understand ultimately, how do you defend yourself against these emerging threats? All right. So this is it, right? That was, believe it or not, the introduction. We are about 15 minutes in. I see some questions coming in. I do see them. I'm not ignoring you. Keep them coming. I promise we can keep this conversation going. So now we're going to get into the defense part, right? We've talked about the emerging threats. We've talked about AI, right? Doing something accidentally. We've talked about generative AI, somebody maliciously trying to impact or find vulnerabilities using these technologies. And we've also talked about workforce behavior, right? And that's all really, really important in the context of this conversation. Please follow me for a sec, okay? So in that idea all of a sudden security becomes really complex and kind of scary because it's multifaceted. So let's bring it back and let's make it a little bit less scary and demystified, right? So one of the most important things that you can do in from a security perspective is create an architecture before you look at AI, before you look at any cool system with an amazing name from it. You need to look at security based on context and layers. You're going to hear me repeat this a couple of times as we talk about it. Who, what, how, where, and when. And listen, you might even have other context. Drop it in the chat window. Let me know what else you might be missing from here. But you need to deeply understand who's coming in, what is actually coming in, how are you coming in, where is this data coming in from, and when is this traffic actually being sent out? And just based on this alone, you're able to mitigate a lot of threats. And what I want everyone to know here is that I'm not here to tell you that if an attack happens. I'm saying when an attack happens. My research that I've done with many of the biggest network security firewall architectures has proven that 100% of all organizations reviewed had a malicious event. All of them, whether it's through clicking, through somebody trying to tap into them, testing their ports, all of them. Every single company had a malicious event happen to them. Now, if that translates to a breach, that's entirely up to you, right? In the context of the security architecture that you're deploying. So this is where it gets really, really important, right? How are you actually securing this? So the first part that I want to talk about before we get into technologies, before we actually talk about all these crazy AI things that we're seeing, I need to talk about you, the people. And in my experience, this is by far one of the most important steps in creating a really much more secure architecture. Now, I know that the title of this webinar is How AI Transforms Security and Threat Detection. I would be doing you a disservice if this wasn't the first thing, because you start with people. Good security practices have to start with people. And so let me illustrate some of those points and where I've seen success, specifically in where we can empower people. And I promise we're going to get into the fun technology side of this as well. So like I said earlier, 1 in 50 URLs is malicious. Nearly 1 in 3 phishing sites use HTTPS to appear legitimate. It's that little lock that we talked about in the upper left. Over 90% of malware and ransomware attacks come into businesses via email. So that's really scary. And most breaches involve phishing and using stolen credentials. Again, the ability to brute force an attack where it's an unsecured password, or just systems that are out of date potentially. When we take a look at the types of threats that are impacting us, that are going after you, and it doesn't matter if you are listening to this and you are a multinational organization, or you're a lawyer shop of like 2 or 3 people, you are still a potential target. When we start to take a look at some of the threats out there, and we will dive into this further when we start to talk about the technology aspect of it, phishing, spear phishing, really targeted types of attacks, business email compromises and spoofing, social engineering scams. When I was working as an engineer a while back, I was a part of, a little mini tiger team, and yours truly was a social engineer, right? And because this guy's friendly, plenty of caffeine, and I am friendly. So I would call in a middle manager sometime on like a Wednesday right before lunch, and I'd say, hey, this is Bill with your IT department. Now I know what their IT department was because I went dumpster diving. This is actually true. And I found out what their IT bill was and who actually does it. Hey, this is Bill with your IT department. We're doing a really quick upgrade of your Microsoft Office environment. We just need to go ahead and get your username and password and we'll be all set. And those stressed out managers, remarkably, I think it was like 60 to 65% of them, they gave me the information that I wanted because I sound pretty convincing. And I'm not the only one. Now, my job is to be the good guy, right? I will tell them, hey, the company, we need to fix this. You can't get this stuff out, and you do resolve this. But there are people that will do social engineering against companies and people, and they do get away with it. So we're looking also at common malware, ransomware attacks, fake websites that steal data or infect devices, right? Clicking on links, goodness, that you don't know what they are. And we talked about this. Data loss via ChatGPT and bots, and obviously there's other ones that I didn't list on there. But that ChatGPT and the AI architecture, that's really, really scary. So when we start to talk to people, when we educate them, remember what I said earlier, shared responsibility. I cannot stress this enough. Everybody becomes an owner of security. So in the work that I've been doing, in the training that I've seen are out there, After 12 months of ongoing phishing simulations and security awareness training, which includes generative AI, ChatGPT, spoofs that are developed with these technologies, and so on, end users are 70% less likely to click through on a phishing message. Now, coupled with the right security tools, you can drastically lower the risk of a security event. So follow me here, for example, right? If you know that 94% of your attacks are coming in through your inbox, and you simply, with a good security awareness program, can reduce those clicks by 70%, you're really, 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 really lessening that threat spectrum that you have to go after, because now all of a sudden you have smarter users that are your first line of defense, better sometimes than any technology, right? Because common sense, remarkably, is actually pretty powerful when you apply it properly. So again, this is why I'm not talking about technology first. This is why I want to make sure I focus on you, the people, the process, and then we'll talk about the technology as well, because obviously it's very, very important. But again, security awareness works. You're going to hear about more of these technologies as this conversation goes on, as we introduce more technologies, as this growth and innovation happens. We're going to see more of this. But the most important thing is, again, the person and how we train them. So, all right, everybody. We're gonna take a mid webinar break. If you got a coffee, don't get up. Don't get up. You got this. This is just a water break. And it's so much better. It feels refreshed. So let's talk about AI. Let's talk about AI in the sense of how it's transformed security, where we're looking at things like threat detection, and most of all, where I've seen artificial intelligence become your ally. So at the highest level possible, you have to be living under a rock if you have not noticed the rise of adoption of AI. I feel that any technology becomes mainstream when South Park does an episode on it. They actually did one on generative AI. It's called deep learning. It's not crude. It's not ugly. It's actually a really, really, really good episode. And at the end, it says written by Trey Stone and ChatGPT. It's so good, it's scary, and it's scary how good it is. So I recommend you watching it. But the rapid rise of AI is evident. I mean, it's absolutely here. We're seeing it across every single industry, particularly notable in actually cybersecurity, where we're using this as an instrument to enhance threat detection capabilities. And there's a big significance here as well, right? This is, again, what we're going to talk about is traditional AI, but also these new types of technologies where we are capable of processing, and these are using this new ecosystem and this new gear that you're hearing about from NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel, processing vast amounts of data intelligently, recognizing patterns and transforming it, in some cases generating whole new architectures or recommendations on how organizations can defend against cyber attacks, threats, and making responses much more effective, right? So actually not saying when something happens, but not if, but when something happens, and how do I contain that incident? So the current cybersecurity landscape is that we see many more connected devices. We're seeing many more data breaches, unfortunately, because there are more targets. And the cybersecurity landscape demands innovation, and AI not only stands alone, but it stands at the forefront of these innovations, and specifically what we can do. So when we start to take a look at cyber threats, right, we talked about phishing, we talked about some of these other elements, the nature of these cyber threats has changed. It really has. And that's something that we didn't talk about earlier, right? The advanced persistent threats requiring comprehensive defenses really creates a multifaceted challenge and opportunity for us to both learn about our businesses and figure out better ways to secure them. And this evolving threat landscape, everything from individual to state malicious actors, we're seeing so many tactics. They are not lone wolves. They operate in teams. They trade intellectual property. They help each other out in terms of how to get into an environment. And that necessitates continuous monitoring and adaptation of security measures, both in the general realm as well as being able to monitor things like the dark web. And there's a very clear importance of being proactive in all of this, right? A reactive approach to cybersecurity it's not going to be enough, right? Because you're not mitigating the risk enough. But when you go through proactive defense strategies and offense strategies, but we'll talk about what offense looks like. It's pretty crazy to talk about it, but we can now predict and mitigate potential threats before they can occur, right? And that's where partly generative AI comes in, where we're not just looking at patterns anymore. It's confidence-based recognition, where based on these patterns, I could say, hey, something is happening, and I'm 50% sure that in 3 hours, this system might experience an attack just based on the variables that I'm seeing. And then when it gets closer to it, the system can say, hang on a sec, now I'm 85% sure that in 30 minutes, this system is going to experience an attack because we're seeing these various variables basically impact your environment as well as other ecosystems. You should take action now. This is an extraordinary way not to recognize patterns, but to generate outcomes based on what this environment is seeing and how it can actually secure your ecosystem. That is extraordinary because we're starting to use these AI-driven tools. Oh my gosh, you guys, some of these tools for the most advanced threat detection paradigms you could ever imagine. So defining what these tools are, right? These tools leverage machine learning, advanced algorithms to enhance threat detection and response capabilities, not just getting you to a response faster, but it reduces human error, right? It reduces that swivel chair analysis where you have too many monitors to look at. And as far as the types of AI solutions that we've seen integrated into security products, everything from predictive analytics to machine learning, AI solutions can vary very widely based on the capabilities to actually create a cybersecurity process. And it has a massive role. AI will not just continue to have a massive role, it's going to continue to grow, in some cases, automating and overtaking manual operations to help us be even more secure. To the extent where generative AI can put on the malicious actor hat to help you offensively secure your environment even more effectively. That's really crazy stuff. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But the integration of AI, specifically into cybersecurity, really you're detecting these really difficult to notice anomalies, vulnerabilities, and offering real-time insights to help mitigate and reduce all of this risk. So what we're starting to see, obviously we've seen this in the past, but how AI is transforming how we deliver security, the specific tools. So let's talk about these. These are some of the elements that you're going to see when you start to take a look at artificial intelligence and security. So machine learning, right? Algorithms that can analyze historical data for pattern recognition and predict future threats. NLP, natural language processing, where you can extract valuable insights from data that is not structured. So, not like a pretty Excel spreadsheet, but PDFs, random information that could be really used well, such as like interactions and security reports that can contribute to threat detection efficacy. Anomaly detection is a really good one. This has been around for a while, but holy cow, everyone, it's gotten way, way better. So AI systems that can flag unusual behavior, for example, deviations from established patterns, which is essential for detecting some of the really craziest potential intrusions and irregularities in an environment, especially as we grow, have more connected devices, and so on. Now, predictive analytics is something we see by forecasting potential threats based on data trends. We see how predictive analytics can help organizations prioritize their security measures far more effectively. And in this sense, we're starting to use artificial intelligence to create more scenarios, to analyze more data points, to analyze different traffic variations, all of this to get us to an ability to basically predict more intelligently. Now, you got generative AI on there. You can start taking a look for those systems as well. The ability to scan an entire network and generate network architecture and unique vulnerability reports based on scenarios. So now what we're seeing is, and this is how it has to be done. New models like Llama 3.1, for example, can help you create fully encapsulated private security architectures where, for example, you're a healthcare, you're a financial services organization. You can't put your network schematics into the cloud in the OpenAI API, but you've got, for example, H100s or A100s at your co-location, for example, or directly on site. This is, again, what we do at Apollo. You can take Llama 3.1, put it in your environment, completely isolated, not go into the cloud, and create a private GPT architecture where you take your network, you upload it and say, what are the vulnerabilities that you see? How would you attack this? And now this is not going to the cloud. This is your entire engine. So you start to create these scenarios with your own security mitigation system of how you can create optimal security. Now that is really cool. Everything from reports to actually generating what a security or network architecture should look like based on an opinion. Oftentimes you will find something that you will never know or never knew based on what AI can generate. Now, when we start to talk about, now we talked about how it's transforming technologies. These are specific tools and let's say subsets, features that you want to look for. Now, when you start to integrate this, there's some best practices that we want to talk about. You're going to need a structured approach. This isn't something that a team that's isolated can do. You need stakeholders buy-in, you need ongoing training, and you need to make sure you're doing iterative testing of this AI system because obviously gremlins, it just happens. You just need to keep testing this stuff. And when we start to take a look at AI in the data, I'm sorry, in the enterprise, it does create an organizational shift, a transformation, because it leads to broader organizational change that's reshaping not just that technology. Remember we talked about people, culture, process, and then obviously the technology as well. So you need to have not just stakeholder onboarding, but also your users need to be very familiar with this technology as well. Into some effective integration strategies that we've seen out there. So employee-phased approach, so maybe individual departments, making sure that they're comfortable with this, and then integrating this architecture to make sure you have a measured implementation with good cybersecurity workflows. One of the last things that you really want to do is just go company-wide. I really do recommend phased approaches because you're capable of doing a lot more and learning a lot more about your business in terms of how you're integrating these technologies. So you just don't want to make it too complex or too rapid, but don't take your time either. In the sense of what you're integrating into your AI, you're integrating AI into security operations, there's benefits, right? So we talked about this earlier. So real-time threat detection and also automated defense and offense, right? So this is the really cool part. And this is so much fun to talk about right now. First of all, you need that real-time threat analytics where new AI tool sets allow you to monitor network activities, devices, and really offer an immediate response to potential threats before they escalate. Now, again, that is basically me saying you're going to limit your damage because, again, if somebody gets in, they're going to try and spread out as fast as possible. And your ability to catch that in real time is going to be very, very important. Now, automation in defense and offense strategy. So this is really cool. So automated scripts and AI systems can respond to known threats without human intervention, significantly reducing reaction times. But they can also proactively test devices, external connections, and much more. So what we've seen specifically for generative AI systems is that you can actually create a model and architecture where you interact with your data and your network and your ecosystem, right? Where you basically create an AI that's your friend, but that does penetration and vulnerability testing on your behalf. So again, uploading network schematics, data schematics, all of this stuff into a private GPT model. Again, I can't stress this enough. This is not going to the cloud. This is entirely your environment. And then getting an offensive report. That is so cool. Oh my God, everybody, it's ridiculous because that's the first time. I mean, you don't necessarily have to pay somebody else to do this. But these generative AI systems, they will scan your environment and they generate a wholly original report for you to tell you where you can make these improvements. That is an offensive capability because you have an attacker, let's call it, right, that's on your side, that's trying to make it improve your environment where you have vulnerabilities, and ultimately it will show you things that you maybe didn't know, a configuration, an out-of-date piece of environment, or just simply saying, hey, you should probably create a VLAN here because I can access this really easily because, I don't know, this switch is out of date or something. But that's the benefit of using these kinds of systems that can generate really complex reports and actually become a part of your offensive security strategy. I do love automation. I think this is really, really important as a part of a tool that you look at. So it improves efficiency and allows security teams to really concentrate on strategic tasks instead of routine monitoring. This is really important. Every second counts. Every minute counts. The last thing you want is, again, neck pains from your security people because they have to look at too many screens and look at too much data points. So you really do want to use automation to, again, be able to respond faster. And most of all, you get efficiency gains, right? Effective implementation of automated defense strategies and obviously offensive ones as well, like we talked about, it leads to quicker resolutions, lower downtimes, faster resolution of incidents, and obviously better resource allocation within these teams because they are spent time on doing what's valuable to the organization and not just trying to put out fires. So all of that's really, really important to understand. When we start to talk about, that real-time incident response and being able to enhance incident response with AI, this gets really, really interesting because, first of all, rapid response with things like real-time analysis is really important. I know I sound like a skipping record here, but your ability to respond to an incident, especially right now, because these attacks are vicious. They are trying to get into your environment, and data is stolen not in days, it's stolen in hours. That's how impactful it is. And unfortunately, with some of these legacy AI systems, while that data is stolen within hours, vulnerability breaches aren't detected for weeks. So rapid response is critical. The speed of an incident response is crucial in minimizing damage, and AI systems, they do this drastically improve response times through predictive insights and even working again as that offensive technology. Again, I see the questions coming in. There's a bunch of them right now. I promise we'll get to this. We'll make sure we let's see what time is it. We'll save some time at the end. So I'll try and answer this. And again, if I don't answer one of these, if it's somebody really curious, please, I do get a report. I promise I'll reach out to you, and we'll keep this conversation going. We talked about this, right? AI's role in incident management and isolation. This is really, really critical. So not only are you capturing and prioritizing these incidents, you're isolating them and you're facilitating a structured and efficient incident management process. So this is really important, not just stopping an attack, but also learning it, right? You got a cut on your arm. A response is a band-aid. Now, what I want to know is, why did I get the cut on my arm, right? So you want to be able to isolate it and more deeply understand where that attack came from. Why did it come in? What were the threat factors? What was the access methodology? Why did this happen, right? Because learning from the incident is just as important, honestly, as responding to it very, very quickly. So AI, as far as enhancing response to various types of incidents, gives you a enhanced tool and framework to work with. These AI powered tools exist literally to streamline incident processes, your response mechanism, and automated alerts, for example, and incident tracking software do all of this for you. These are powerful tools that make your life easier. Now, what's really special about this webinar is that we've got some really cool sponsors, like people that are putting this on. Now, I'm going to be perfectly candid with you. I don't work for them. I'm not paid to promote them at all, but I am going to call them out because they're on this webinar and they talk about it. So we got Okta, SentinelOne, for example, and Pure Storage. I'm very fortunate. I spent 10 years in the value-added reseller community, and drumroll, I work with Okta and SentinelOne and Pure Storage, and three architectures that I absolutely enjoyed working with so much. In fact, I remember some of my first ever converged and hyper-converged architectures were deployed with Pure Storage, and I remember using Okta for federated identity and SentinelOne's architecture for really cool endpoint detection and response systems. So these are the people that are saying, hey, let's talk about security, let's talk about AI, but they're actually doing this in the workspace, in the in the enterprise space. And I'm just calling them out. That's all I'm doing right now because it's important, right? So Okta has an AI-centric approach using enhanced identity management and access security, mitigating risks associated with unauthorized access. That's so important. Do you remember that brute force thing that I put up there? This Okta literally prevents that from happening. SentinelOne has machine learning to automate threat detection and response, really reducing the burden on the security teams to basically capture and isolate and mitigate those kinds of threats. Listen, even Pure Storage has got the Pure One architecture that offers AI-driven forecasting of capacity and needs, simplifying essential workload planning, and actually being able to create a really intelligent analytics framework for encryption that could be used for distributed sites. In fact, I remember specifically I used Pure Storage for a remarkable recovery incident because of a ransomware attack that came in where some files got impacted, but because of Pure Storage's really, really powerful replication methodologies with encryption, nothing got lost. Maybe they lost like 15 minutes. They had to restore some stuff, but everything was fine. But that is how you prepare for some of these. It's not about just shutting the gate. It's understanding if somebody gets in, what happens? Like, what do I do? How do I mitigate this? So there are wonderful solutions out there. There are differentiating solutions out there that all sort of fit into the puzzle piece of using AI to mitigate threats and improve threat detection. We've talked about a lot, right? We're coming to the tail end of this. I know we've covered a lot. It's a lot of slides. It's a lot of conversation. I think the most important thing here, I want everyone to understand, is the technology is here. It's catching up and really actively impacting what our companies are doing, what enterprises are doing, and none of it's slowing down. So let's explore some of these AI features that are impacting security. And we've talked about this a little bit, right? So first of all, the advanced features like behavior analytics, multi-factor authentication, like we talk about, they underscore AI's capability to enhance security protocols uniquely for organizations, verticals, and industries. And AI functions that define security levels based on context. Time out. Do you guys remember that slide I put up a little earlier? Security based on context and layers. That's what artificial intelligence does for you and significantly simplifies it, right? So like automated vulnerability assessment, real-time alerts, they're crucial for maintaining proactive security postures. And again, being able to isolate on who, what, where, how, why, all of these really contextual parallel variables that are very important that sometimes you can't visualize, but AI can. And one of the things that we need to understand is that there's no sort of one cookie cutter framework, right? It's tailored solutions for various organizations. And obviously that goes without saying. If you're healthcare, you need one thing, financial services, enterprise, nonprofit, education, your architectures will be different. But AI can adapt to it, to specific organizational needs, requirements that are bespoke, allowing for only bespoke, security measures based on unique threat profiles and requirements. So again, what you can start to create with AI is a unique threat profile for your organization and actually create a security architecture around it. It's pretty cool. And then efficiency, right? You get efficiency boost from AI integration where you use this technology significantly improve operations, enable security teams to manage threats with higher precision and speed. That's really important, right? You don't want to stress out your IT teams, most of all your security teams. You need them to capture threats much more effectively. And that's what they're doing. They're using threat detection capabilities of AI to become a lot more effective. Proactive identification of threats. We talked about this. Behavior analytics. That's really important. Reducing false positives. Oh, I can't stress how important that is, right? You want to make sure you actually have real threats that you're capturing and not false positives. So by employing these sophisticated algorithms, AI improves the accuracy in threat detection, minimizing the number of false alarms and the security teams that must address them. So much more valuable insights into the reports that are actually impactful. And these early warning systems, right? Sounding the alarm before there is a massive damage impact to an organization. So these AI systems, especially when you start to take a look at the offensive capabilities of them, provide early warnings of potential breaches, allowing organizations to act quickly, in some cases, before any breach even occurs, because an AI system found a vulnerability for you before the malicious guys do. So that's really, really important to understand. So what we're seeing right now is the rise of intelligent AI integration into our enterprises. But that being said, I need to talk about the risks. We've talked about all the wonderful things AI can do. We've talked about all the really cool things, you can accomplish with this. Let me tell you where it's stumbled. We've done many of these kinds of deployments. I've done many firewall, network security types of architectures. When we start to take a look at artificial intelligence, it creates a new level of risk and potentially places where you can mess up. So this is another one of those slides. Hop off your Amazon shopping list wherever you are right now. Coming back here for just a second, because this is where we've seen some of these projects fail. So first things first, the potential of dangers of AI integration. So with this rapid adoption, the one thing that I saw is younger engineers especially become over reliant on it. They become too reliant, and they actually create malicious AI usage because the system doesn't work properly for the business. They're not supporting it. They're not working with the proper data variables. They just think that the AI system could do everything. Now, there does require human interaction. These are not completely autonomous systems, not yet at least, but they're certainly not. They don't replace people. They are complementing security engineers. So you can't become over-reliant on it. You need to work in tandem with these technologies. This is a big one. Ethical implications. I bet you didn't think I was going to be talking about ethics here. When Apollo was founded, we were built on three really important core tendencies: AI sustainability, AI transparency, and drumroll AI ethics. This is really important because As AI systems evolve, ethical considerations surrounding bias, accountability, and privacy must be addressed to ensure responsible use. I'll give you a very clear example. There was a camera system developed recently for security measures, and guess what? It was identifying threats, unfortunately, way more associated with people of color than not. And remarkably, what they realized is that it actually had problems, challenges identifying faces and features of people of color because the system was designed by white folks, right? And so obviously, like, it's been trained on images that didn't look like them, right? And all of a sudden it's going to be flagging all these good people as potential risks. That's an ethical implication, right? We can't do that. We have to train systems that we consider bias, right? And we actually understand that this is a system that can impact and secure everybody. Mitigating risk with safeguards, right? So implementing governance frameworks is going to be really important. Regular audits must happen because you're going to mitigate risks with AI integration in security. So you need to have a governance. You do need to have a framework. It's not a standalone technology. It's something that does touch various parts of the business and various parts of the technologies. And you want to safeguard it, right? You want to have organizations that are monitoring and evaluating the techniques to ensure AI tools are being used effectively and responsibly, right? Again, you can't just have this stuff shelfware. It's there, it's doing work for us, I'm good. That's not how this stuff works. And finally, this happens. You increase complexity. If you don't deploy this right, if you isolate teams, if you don't actually involve stakeholders, you will create complexity in your IT environment, and that could actually create a detrimental solution that doesn't actually do anything for you. If anything, it kind of creates a stumbling block. So these are some of the things that I really want you to be aware of. Please, as you look at AI integration, you need to address the risks, understand the potential downfall, where these technologies might not serve you justice. But again, if you look at this, understand holistically, AI is extremely powerful, and that's sort of how we're gonna wind this down a little bit. I see some questions coming in. When we start to take a look at this, some final thoughts. We are redefining security with this. We are. AI is absolutely redefining security. We're getting crazy insights. The fusion of AI technology with security practices highlights a new era of threat deterrence and operational efficiency. We get actionable strategies for implementation. So actually knowing how to deploy or employ targeted strategies to integrate with AI more effectively. We see future direction for AI security. We talked about generative AI, obviously being able to use it for offensive capabilities. Where it's going to continue to evolve, it will continue to evolve and help you stay agile and a lot more secure to meet your strategies and all of those emerging challenges. And obviously, it's important to stay ahead. Continuous learning and adaptation are essential. So know where AI is evolving and how you can impact your systems using those new innovations. Again, you can leverage AI for effective cybersecurity while remaining resilient against some of those future threats. I want to leave everyone with a couple of thoughts here before we get into the questions. There's never a silver bullet. There really isn't one. Make sure you're working with trusted partners. Know your ecosystem from infrastructure to platform, which means from physical to the logical, the software that goes and lives on top of it. Look for hardware-based security options as well. Like, it's not just about the software tools, all the stuff that I can encryption, vaults, in-memory protection, making sure that you're not losing your data in any sense of the way, like what I talked about earlier, like encryption, for example, and test. Please test. Please always test. And I'm not talking like, once a year. We're talking quarterly if not more frequently than that, because the malicious actors are testing your environment just as much as, you should be doing even more. So some things that I really want you to be paying attention to. And finally, the one thing I want to make sure I leave everybody on is this. While we should all have hope is not a good strategy when it comes to security. Again, it's something we need to make sure we effectively go after and secure. And AI is a vehicle to make that happen. Absolutely. So that's all I got. We're right about at time here. Listen, don't be a stranger. Connect with me. These are all my LinkedIn, my socials. I'm much more responsive on LinkedIn. I don't do too much on X or Facebook. You can visit my website to see where I'm speaking next, some of the stuff that I've written. But with that in mind, let's see. There are some questions. There are some questions coming in. Okay. By the way, we do have a couple minutes here. If there's any more questions, put them into the Q&A here, and I'll keep an eye on them. Okay, we've got one from an audience member. How complex is it to deploy these solutions? Well, that's a great question, right? And that's literally one of the ones that I talked about, right? Where you could potentially introduce additional levels of complexity for your business. It doesn't have to, but effectively, it takes a structured approach. It can introduce complexity into your environment, but it doesn't need to. A lot of these tools, especially now with maturity, are better, more easily deployed, and have a massive impact on your environment. Again, look, it's all about how you put the stuff in and in the right use case, right? It doesn't have to be complex. And in fact, it can probably simplify your environment and make your life a lot easier. Um, where can generative AI be used for security today? That's a really good question. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a real example. So generative AI that I've seen, we've seen them being deployed in security operations centers, so SOCs, and a correlation with security event and incident management systems, so SIMs, um, where we actually can create a tool set of generative AI with a SIMS tool set where Gen AI can basically create sophisticated models that can predict and identify unusual patterns indicative of a cyber threat or an actual attack. So this capability allows security systems and teams to respond more rapidly and effectively than traditional methods. And a lot of these folks can now build private GPT sort of attack vector offensive capabilities with, for example, Llama 3.1, which is an open model, right? A foundational model, which in my opinion is as powerful, if not in more powerful in some situations than GPT for Omni. And again, that's a big use case where now all of a sudden you can take this generative AI architecture, put it on-prem, and do some really cool validation. So there are areas. It's emerging. It's still emerging, right? Literally, GPT-3 came out very recently, so we're still figuring out ways to inject generative AI into these systems. Holy cow. What a great question this one is. Thank you. Do you feel malicious actors will just use the same tools? Wow. Yes. I mean, they are. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're using it for reconnaissance. They're using it to draft emails. They're using it to potentially find exploits. Listen, the malicious actors are very motivated. We are in an economy of data loss. It's a very challenging thing. I remember for dark reading, I had to actually dive into the dark web and figure out how much your data costs. It includes social security numbers, medical records, buying sophisticated targeted ransomware attacks. All of this stuff is for sale, including generative AI attacks. So yes, they can use them, but you can use them a lot more effectively by blocking all those doors and using the tool actually for offensive capabilities as well. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to try it out. But again, there's really great ways that I think that you can create a more secure architecture where you use generative AI to your advantage. Okay, I mean, I see there's a lot of questions. How close are we to these tools being in action? Again, I'm seeing them right now. Already artificial intelligence is way more powerful, even in the pattern recognition realm, than it used to be ever before. And these are the systems that are creating powerful scenarios for companies distributed one side, whether you're under regulation or compliance, to use AI specifically for threat detection, for monitoring anomalies, and being able to respond a lot faster. And these are great questions. But again, it's most important about your journey. And I don't want you to forget, like, we're talking about these tools here, but it starts with the people. And again, if this is the one note that I leave this on, we're just running out of time here. If that's the one thing that I want to leave with you, you have to focus on the people, make sure they're trained. And when you create that level of awareness around security, especially around security training, these tools are only pillars. They are massive pillars that then help you overall hold up an overall much more confident and resilient security architecture for your company. And remember, shared responsibility. Every user in your organization must share the security responsibility. And that's when you actually create a really powerful security ecosystem. I think that's all the time I have. I'm going to pass it back to Scott and the moderator here. By all means, if you have any other questions, please, send them to me. You can send them to me on LinkedIn. If they're in the chat box here in the Q&A, I will get back to them. But meanwhile, this is all of my information. I am very fortunate. I already saw a bunch of pings happen on LinkedIn. I will connect with you. But meanwhile, stay safe, stay secure, and most of all, just stay vigilant. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Bill. As always, you delivered just great info, great insights, and it's been really fun. And like you said, we'll be sending you all those questions that you didn't have time to get to, so you can respond to folks individually by email. And a quick reminder to everyone, this is your last chance to grab those handouts from University of San Diego, Okta, Sentinel-1, and Pure Storage. So click on those now if you meant to grab them. And before we wrap up, we do have that one more piece of business. It's the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card today is Michael Dees from Tennessee. So congratulations to Michael Dees. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I just want to thank our sponsors again for making this event possible. That was University of San Diego, Okta, Sentinel-1, and Pure Storage. And thanks as always for attending and for all of your great questions. That's going to conclude today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day and a great weekend.